Welcome to our session on marketplace strategies, how to look at multi-vendor commerce between Dropship, first-party commerce, and 3P marketplaces. I'm Tom McFadyen, CEO of McFadyen Digital, and my honored guest is Janae Pasquinelli from Walgreens. We'll do some introductions in a second. But let me first, again, welcome you here to NRF Big Show 2023. This session is part of a series that McFadyen Digital does on marketplace best practices. And if you want a free copy of our Amazon best-selling book, feel free to stop by our booth 701. We've got lots of copies of this there and other resources for you, including a document on Dropship versus marketplace comparison. So getting into the meat of what we're going to talk about today. 4 main topics. We're going to go through quick introductions. Just one slide, McFadyen Digital, not an advertisement here. Mostly we're going to talk about first-party e-commerce versus Dropship versus marketplace. Everybody's heard the terms. We're going to get into a little bit of the fundamental business models and economics that vary between those 3 business models, some considerations in deciding between those 3, and some examples. So Janae will talk about some of the considerations and examples in real life experience. So again, one slide about McFadyen Digital. We are marketplace experts. All we do is marketplaces all day, all long, all the time. Been doing that for over a decade. In fact, we've been doing e-commerce for a quarter century and digital solutions for over a third of a century. We have a team of 250 marketplace professionals spread around the US, India, and Brazil. We're honored to have helped over 10%, approaching 15% of the Fortune 500 and digitally enable them. A lot of large-scale clients like Walgreens, very happy to work with them. We've built hundreds of e-commerce solutions and marketplace solutions, and dozens of them generate over $1 billion a year of GMV, gross merchandise value. So very focused on large scale, as well as innovative startups and some mid-market solutions for the entire marketplace journey, from strategy planning. We have a great strategy team. You may have seen our chief strategy officer present yesterday here. Tech stack selection. We have a great white paper on comparing the marketplace and Dropship options available, help build and implement and launch marketplaces, tuning them, the marketing, and ongoing performance management of the marketplaces. So that's my one slide about McFadyen Digital. Let me hand it over to the person you really want to hear from, Janae from Walgreens, as I'll join her.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, my name is Janae Pasquinelli. I am the Senior Director of the Digital Merchandising team. So here, just giving you guys a quick one-slide shot of Walgreens. I think everyone here knows Walgreens. We're actually within 5 miles of 78% of the American population. So I'd be shocked if someone here couldn't think of a Walgreens that's on their corner or nearby where they could quickly pick up their products. So I'm not going to drain too many of these facts. I think we've got almost 9,000 stores, which has been amazing because over the past 2 years, it's allowed us to really focus on our same-day fulfillment opportunities. So we currently offer pickup in 30 minutes or less, and then same-day delivery in under an hour. So it's our store network that's allowed us to be able to do that. And in this past year alone, we've actually fulfilled over 20 million last mile orders for those same day services, which has been unbelievable that we've been able to meet our customers where and when they need their products. Just a couple other fun facts. We've filled over 1.2 billion prescriptions in 2022. And we've administered over 72 million COVID vaccines. So really proud of the work we've been able to do to really make sure that we're able to help people on their health journeys. And obviously, while the stores are the heart of our brand, we continue to see digital is really continuing to grow and be a regular part of how our customers interact with us. So we have over 1 billion digital visits and over 60 million lifetime downloads. You guys could see some of the other ones I missed, but that's Walgreens in a nutshell, I guess you could say. And then on the next slide, just quickly about myself. I've been at Walgreens for about a year. Like I said, I lead the digital merchandising team that's actually inclusive also of our merchandising operations and our digital experience teams. So we really help manage the online assortment strategy, how that comes to life. We manage the P&L for digital, and also then search and browse, anything you could think of, all of our tier pages to help customers find what they're looking for and how that shows up on both Walgreens.com and the Walgreens app. Prior to that, I spent the past 14 years in apparel merchandising and product development. So yes, I'm now at Walgreens. I deal with every product except apparel. But that's where I was before. The past 4 years, I was at Amazon, where I led their product development teams with their apparel private label brands. I helped really build out the strategy and grow their Amazon Essentials brand, which is the Amazon Basics of apparel, which is now one of their top apparel brands across both 3P and 1P offered on the site. And then I also helped implement a new process there to utilize our 3P suppliers, since you know that was such a huge part of Amazon's ecosystem, to support the private label business, to fill in that white space that I could tell you producing clothing doesn't take a month or two. It takes 8 months to a year. So really utilizing that 3P supplier base to help fill in the gaps. And then just prior to that, I spent 10 years at Gap Inc. at both digital and brick and mortar merchandising. So that's just a little bit about myself.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, Janae. It's an honor to have an expert from some of the leading retailers, biggest retailers in America and the biggest marketplace in America. Experience with first-party inventory goods, dropship, and third-party marketplace, which is what we're going to dive into now. Everybody's heard the terms and knows generally what they are. I propose there might be a little bit of depth in terms of the business models and the economic models that vary between these. So I'm going to try to explain those a little bit in a couple graphs here. So a framework for understanding first-party commerce, dropship, marketplace, and enhanced levels of that is the marketplace maturity model, built on similar to capability maturity model, or CMMI, for those who are familiar with software development. You start with first-party e-commerce, where the operator sources products, manages images, merchandising, pricing, fulfillment, returns, et cetera, to dropship, which is an incremental step above that. It's still what's called the pipeline business, and I'll explain what pipeline means. But you take a couple steps out of the process where somebody else holds the inventory and fulfills the inventory, but all those other steps are still performed by the first-party retailer or e-commerce operation. Sometimes organizations will skip this, but it is a valuable option for consideration in your fulfillment options. Third is the third-party marketplace business model, which really is a platform business model. And again, this changes some of the financial economics, the business model, the scalability, really fundamental. I'll talk about that on some of the future slides. And then like CMMI, you have quantitative management where the numbers drive the business. You have a lot of analytics that can help. For example, all the insights that Amazon got from the huge catalog, the huge customer traffic, provides great insights into future product development and optimizing the business as well. And then, which is the fifth stage. So there are all kinds of additional business models that can spin out of that. We've seen so many ways in which Amazon has done this, from offering physical goods to offering services. You can have a third-party buy a TV from a third-party provider. You can have a third-party service provider install it for you. You can stream content from a third-party digital content provider. You can have types of vendor promotions, automated vendor onboarding, many, many different ways in which the marketplace business model can be optimized. So let's look at, if you've heard the term pipeline business versus platform business, a pipeline like retail or first-party e-commerce is a series of sequential labor-intensive steps that have to happen one after another. You have to find products, source the goods, negotiate contracts with them, load them into ERP. Typically it might be like a 40 character description of the good. Then your team of merchandisers will create the marketing text that's SEO optimized for it. The operator sets the price. It sounds trivial, but it's an important differentiator in marketplace versus e-commerce. You hold the inventory both physically and financially, meaning you have to have the distribution centers to physically hold the goods, and you have to financially outlay capital to acquire them. Process the orders. This is typically automated. And then fulfill the orders as well. So you have those DC people who are going to be working in distribution centers, paying your freight or FedEx, UPS, et cetera, to finally get money from the customer. 8 labor-intensive, expensive steps that take a while. The marketplace, or the platform business, on the other hand, generally has 2 different major types of labor involved. You have people who recruit sellers and people who support the sellers. There's still the processing the orders, which is automated, but really you don't have most of those other 8 steps in the pipeline business as labor in the marketplace operator business model. There's a network ecosystem, which, if you look at the nodes in a network, they grow exponentially as opposed to linearly. So that's how you really get that exponential scale. Customers, of course, on one side, but you'll have a number of different third-party sellers. A reseller may source goods from a distributor. A third-party reseller might source from multiple distributors. You might have multiple sellers sourcing goods from the same distributor, and they're competing on price, and that drives the Amazon flywheel, virtuous cycle you've heard about, where the prices keep getting better, which attracts more customers attract more sellers. We're seeing more distributors and more manufacturers selling directly on marketplaces as well. CPG brands starting to sell direct on Amazon, for example. So again, a lot of that labor is outsourced to the third-party sellers. Now, if we look at the midpoint in here, the dropship, you still have those 8 steps, but actually 2 of them, holding inventory and fulfilling the inventory, is outsourced to the third-party dropshipper. The operator still has to negotiate those contracts, find the goods, source the goods, negotiate the contracts, load an ERP, merchandise the products, set the price, and then automated processing. And a lot of that upfront effort, sourcing and negotiating contracts and loading into ERP, can be several months or longer. Love to hear about Walgreens' experience doing that. So those are the 3 models at the bottom. First-party e-commerce, dropship, where you have 2 of those steps taken out, and third-party marketplace, which is a platform business, a fundamentally different business model. And this drives the scalability of these businesses. So on the bottom here, you have the cost, so that could be CapEx, OpEx, headcount, fulfillment centers, and then the catalog size. So essentially, if you double your catalog size, you need to double the number of merchandisers who are going to merchandise those, and the people that are going to negotiate contracts and source the goods. You need to double the headcount. You need to, if you're carrying double the inventory, you need to double your fulfillment center, so those CapEx and OpEx expenses go up. Dropship also scales linearly, but at a little bit less cost per unit, per revenue, and per catalog item. But marketplaces, again, due to that network effect, scale exponentially. So at the smaller stage, being a marketplace operator is not necessarily good for a small retailer, but at a certain scale, it grows so much more quickly, and that's where we've seen so many of the disruptive, transformative companies in the world have been marketplaces leveraging this platform business model. So last slide before I hand it over to Janae to talk about some real-world examples. So looking at the financial model, everybody knows buy low, sell high. That's how you operate in retail and e-commerce. You buy a product for cost C from your supplier, or you produce it for cost C, and you set the price to sell it, and your margin is C minus P. It's simple math, or P minus C. So buy low, sell high. On the marketplace, again, I mentioned that the seller sets the price, and that sometimes drives price wars and drives down prices for the customers. You charge a commission, 10%, 15%, 20%, more or less. It can be depending on the category, for example. Some have higher commissions, lower commissions. And instead of buy low, sell high, it's more a matter of helping others sell and take a slice of the pie. So on the top line of your ROI, this is not an exact math, of course, here, but conceptually, all types of fees for marketplaces. They can be commissions, like I mentioned, 10%, 15%. Subscription fees. To be a member, it's $20 a month. To be a premium member, it's $40 a month. To list a product, it's $2 per product you list. Advertising, retail media networks. Amazon generates $35 billion a year from their advertising retail media network. All types of ads can be served. Other offerings available as well, fulfillment, and this is not just the Amazons and Walmarts that offer fulfillment, but sometimes in B2B or distribution, we see opportunities to help with that. And again, on the bottom, we talked about some of those expenses, the CapEx, building out warehouses, the software launching expenses, and the more scalable is the operating expenses, the amount of merchandisers, the staff you have to do for that, the distribution centers, labor, marketing, and so forth. So those, again, different business models, different scalability, different economic models between 1P, dropship, and 3P. So let's look at some of the considerations. There are many, many different considerations, dozens of considerations when deciding, should this be first-party e-commerce, dropship, or third-party marketplace? I'm not going to read these to you, but I think you'd probably appreciate hearing from Janae, who's done all 3 of those, 1P, dropship, and marketplace. What are some of the most important ones for you?
Yeah, I think at each of the companies I've worked at, and as part of assortment strategy, fulfillment method is always the way that you're thinking about it. We continue to think about it at Walgreens as we're making sure we're doing the right thing go forward. So I think the biggest, most obvious one is category expansion. We continue to see retailers, competitors, everyone out there expanding their categories, whether it's through marketplaces or in-house, whether private label or just bringing in that owned inventory in partnership with other suppliers. And we want to make sure we're remaining competitive. So at Walgreens, what we're actually seeing, we have about 15,000 web exclusive products online right now. And customers who shop the web exclusive product actually spend more on an annual basis across all of our fulfillment methods than customers who don't. So if you think about it, what we're really doing is making sure that we're servicing them and their needs so they don't have to go elsewhere. So we're keeping them within our ecosystem. So we really want to make sure we're continuing to grow that assortment within the right categories that make sense for our brand to make sure that our customers don't have to go elsewhere to either abandon their basket or part of their basket to go get their needs. You know, we want to make sure we're offering all variants. I think we continue to see that we want to make sure we're inclusive with our assortments, whether that's through size, scent, silhouette, and apparel. What else could it be? Colors. Cosmetics is a great example of that. And, you know, not always having those in your DC makes sense. I had 64 sizes in my men's pants at Amazon. It would not be fun at MOQs, those minimum orders, to be housing that all in a warehouse when some of those sizes are only selling single digits a year. You know, and lastly, obviously, some SEO favorability there. When you've got that assortment and you've expanded it, when people are searching for it, you're going to be able to show up more often. Another big one for us is time to market. As Tom mentioned, vendor negotiations, vendor setup, item setup it can take a long time. I will just say at Walgreens, it's definitely a long process. And it actually is eating up a lot of my team's time and resources that we could be using to do other things, like continuing to optimize the website. So, you know, what are other options that we could be doing to get vendors and products live on our site faster? Markdown costs is another one. We just got out of holiday. You know, not having to get perfect forecasts, which does not happen. In those years where demand was lower than you expected and you have to bleed margin, it's just the worst come January. So, you know, what are those options, whether it be Dropship or 3P Marketplace, where you don't have to own that inventory? You could still offer that assortment, but you don't have to worry about it at the end of the season to liquidate that product. Testing ground for new products. I think this goes in multiple forms, whether it's new trends that you want to get on fast. This kind of goes hand in hand with that time to market. You know, you want to be able to get on it fast, so if customers are searching for it, you're showing up and not bringing it in 6 months to a year later for the trend to be dead already. I think we're always relooking at our assortment strategies and where there's opportunities within products or categories that are adjacent to what you're successful in, and how could you do that without the risk of inventory and long-term margin if it doesn't pan out. So, you know, the ability to test is another thing that we've really considered in how we want to bring a product in. Out of stocks is another one I think has been really big for us, especially these past couple of years. If I was able to wave a magic wand and go back and have multiple suppliers set up for some of these products or other offers or like products ready to go, you know, maybe we could have serviced our customers during a time of need when they couldn't find those products with us or elsewhere. And the only other one I think I'd want to touch on would be costs. As Tom mentioned, the more assortment you have, the larger the team you need to manage it, the larger the DC you need. Those holding costs really start to add up, especially when that product's not moving. So really thinking how to optimize that product to do the most for you from a profitability perspective as well. A lot of other, as you could see, there's 30 considerations on there. I just named a few, but those are really some of the big ones at Walgreens and at my previous companies that we've really considered when thinking through our assortments.
You mentioned out of stocks. I have a personal experience with that where my online retailer was out of stock of shampoo and they substitute sold me Nair, and it's been downhill ever since.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
So let's look at some examples of different products which might fit into different fulfillment options. So everybody's probably heard of the long tail curve. You have on the bottom your popular to your niche products, the amount that you sell of the vertical axis here, the units sold, is the popularity. You'll typically have your first party inventory. That's the owned inventory that'll be in your stores or in your distribution centers for direct fulfillment. In between will be the drop ship goods. Again, some perhaps bulkier items, seasonal. And then the items that are very niche, which might sell very, very few, that's more typically a good fit for a third-party marketplace. So this is one framework for looking at which categories would go into which type of fulfillment option. Another is the cost to carry versus the frequency of change. So if you think of a box of tissues, that's easy to carry in a store or a fulfillment center. It's versus a sofa or big bulky piece of furniture, which is challenging to carry and expensive to fulfill. The other dimension here, you have products which might change frequently. So for example, cell phone cases, as new cell phones come out, lots of different third parties are selling offering cell phone cases. So that product frequency is going to change a lot more than the box of tissues will. So again, easy to carry, easy to fulfill, low frequency of change, perfect sense for first-party inventory. In between, dropship, if you have to negotiate some, but you still want to control merchandising, for example, maybe better fit for dropship. And those extremely bulky or difficult to fulfill or high frequency of change products are great fits for the third-party marketplace seller business model. So Janae, can you tell us some examples of using these different frameworks, which products might fit in either way at Walgreens or Amazon?
Yeah. So within 1P, like you said, those high velocity ship-to-home products, we want to make sure that we're treating our DC space as precious real estate. You've got a lot of costs built in there, and like I said, holding costs really start to add up. So I'll give some examples from Walgreens. Vitamins, I think, is a big one for us. Not only is it something that people will sign up for auto reorder for, but it's just naturally within our brand, it makes sense that a lot of people come to us for that. So it's definitely product we like to keep on shelves in our DC. I think another category would be what we like to call shy to buy. Those products that you don't want to necessarily walk in a store and pick up and see people, run into your neighbor or have to go up to the cash register and purchase from a person. So we tend to see those products do really well and ship to home and really have some high velocity in sales. So it's items like that we like to really keep in stock in our DCs to make sure that they are spinning and ready to go. In terms of dropship, we still like to have them be more high velocity. They might be some of those bigger items that, again, take up that precious real estate, but they sell well. We've got some good forecasts on it, and we want to keep them churning. So for example, this would be, we partner with a lot of existing suppliers who do our 1P, and then we add on dropship products in bulk, for example. Our stores don't have the real estate to offer bulk items, but we want to make sure that we're offering that to our customers online. So instead of getting a 20-pack of diapers, they're able to get the 100-pack delivered to them. So that would take up a lot of space in our DCs. Dropship is the perfect example of where we could utilize that service to make sure that we are still delivering to our customers. Another would be the seasonal products that I spoke to. So kids' toys during Christmas. We do sell a decent amount of kids' toys at Walgreens. People are coming to us for other things. They spot a great item that might be good for their son or niece or nephew and add it to their basket as well to get delivered. And those come in a range of sizes. So that's great from a drop ship perspective as well, especially as we don't know what demand will be. It definitely fluctuates. We've got a limited amount of time we can sell it. So we do drop ship for a lot of those more seasonal toy buys. At Amazon, some examples from when I was with SPB would have been swimwear. Swimwear is the worst category to own in-house. You can never predict how the summer season's going to be, which sizes of bikinis women are going to buy, and you end up with a whole load of leftover fringe products that don't match back, and you have to give them away. So this is a great option, along with 3P, to use dropship or 3P to help sell those seasonal goods. Another example where you might want to use it is team expertise and resources. Within the private label industry, for example, when I was at Amazon, we had an in-house design team. We didn't necessarily have the team to design and develop accessories. So instead, we worked with our third-party suppliers to offer 3P products that were fitting our brand ethos and aesthetic and added that to the assortment and partnered with our 3P suppliers to do that. Lastly, I guess I was speaking to dropship, but I kind of started going into marketplace as well, so excuse me. But I think this is the exact thing when you're dealing with your assortments. They could all kind of fluid run into each other depending on what you're looking for. But within marketplace, this is really where you want to test new products you're unsure of, especially those big bulky ones. I think in Walgreens, for example, we are there for our customers on their health journeys. And let's take fitness equipment. Who knows if we're going to be able to sell it? But why not try selling treadmills and Peloton bikes online? I don't even know if Peloton would sell to us, but you guys know what I'm getting at. No risk to us. Let's get it on live quickly, see how it does, and that's going to allow us to learn if customers are looking or would consider us for that. The great thing about this as well is as you're learning what is successful and you see successful suppliers through Marketplace, you could go on what's called a graduation path and partnering and bringing them in-house through Dropship, 1P, or even like at Walgreens, giving them the opportunity to sell in 9,000 stores. So these are great testing grounds to figure out what long-term is the right play for this assortment. I spoke earlier about expanding your assortments. Cosmetics is, again, what I always go to. I want to make sure I'm offering all 30 shades of foundations for our customers. I don't want to leave any of them out, but it may not make financial sense for us to have it in-house. This is a great way for us to do that. Within apparel as well, you've got so many different body types, shapes, sizes, colors, and SKUs that you might want to go after. That selection is really important, but not necessarily smart to be developing it all in-house or buying it and bringing it into your DCs. Lastly, again, is the new and trending products. So what I spoke to earlier, when a trend hits, you want to move fast. Marketplace allows you to move fast. Item setup and vendor setup, I think 1P and Dropship are still very similar. You don't lose those steps with Dropship. But with Marketplace, you are able to speed that up. So that is going to allow you to be a little bit more nimble of, if you see a search term that just turns on your site that you want to start getting products live on the site so you're not losing those customers. Or TikTok, I'm not as good at the TikTok universe, but something blows up there. That's where you may want to bring something live, and this would be a really fast, nimble way to bring it to life. Great. So yeah, that's just some of the things, the considerations and product examples that I have had in my past.
Great. You mentioned how you might change a third-party seller up to be inventoried good, and that's a great channel for a lot of people that want to start selling with Walgreens. Obviously, a lot of brands would want to do that, small and big. And it can go the other way as well. I mentioned the level 4 of the marketplace maturity model is quantitative management. Once you start looking at those numbers, hey, this third-party seller product's selling very fast. Maybe we want to carry it in our DCs or in our physical brick and mortar stores. Or vice versa. Numbers show that a product's not selling well, or it's too seasonal, or too big of a markdown, move it to Dropship or a 3P seller. So level 4, you get that data, and you can do a lot of optimization with that.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you brought that up, Tom, because at Walgreens, for example, right now, we just have 1P and Dropship, but we actually just went through a whole, what we call SKU rationalization with my team, where we actually re-looked at our 1P web exclusive product and found those fringe products that we still were worthy of being on our site, that we wanted to service our customers. But we've started talking to those suppliers about actually managing it through Dropship, because it just wasn't financially working for us to be holding them in-house because we weren't selling enough of it. So it definitely goes both ways, and it really allows you to optimize your business.
And another example you mentioned was the toys, kids things. We started working with Toys R Us, unfortunately, towards their last days, and unable to really transform the business. But the challenge they had was, at that time, fidget spinners were the big rage, and you could buy them at 7-Eleven, and they'd been out for half a year. And Toys R Us didn't have any in stock online or in their inventory. It just took them so long to source a new vendor, load in the ERP, negotiate the contract, get it out fully deployed, that half a year of fidget spinners went by. They never had any. So it's...
Yeah, those examples kill you when it happens. So yeah, definitely a good example there.
That wasn't what killed Toys R Us, but,
yeah.
but it's an example product. So we have a couple minutes left. We can take maybe 1 or 2 questions, and maybe if there's anything specifically in the considerations or any other topics anybody like to ask a question about? Got a shy group here. All right, go ahead, please. We do have microphones, or if come on up stage.
How do you manage dilution of the Walgreens brands when you extend out your assortment? I think that's definitely you've got to find that sweet spot. We are definitely not trying to be Amazon and be the everything store. We do not want to be that. I think Walgreens specifically, we are built on trust. We are built around the neighborhood and pharmacy. And so when my teams are looking at opportunities, we're making sure we're looking at what customers are searching for, what are those white spaces from a market share perspective, and categories that we are already running or that we've seen opportunities in. So for us, what we really try to do is make sure that we're constantly looking at what's that search result going to look like? What is that category page going to look like? I don't want to have 20 pages of results. So I think it's you as a merchant or as a business lead have to decide what's the level of curation you want your business to have. And I think with all three of these methods, even marketplace, you could choose how curated you want to be. You don't have to allow everything on your site. So that's definitely been something I've been very careful with my teams on to make sure that we're really standing to the purpose, vision, and values that Roz, our CEO, has set forth, along with listening to the data to make sure that we're giving our customers what they need without adding all that noise that could make online shopping kind of tedious and miserable at times.
Yeah, there's a spectrum of curation that you can go through of how tight you're going to control your sellers, the products, the categories, et cetera. And some, like eBay, is a little bit more on the wild, wild west, and there are high fashion design brands that highly curate their partners for third-party sellers as well. Great question. One of the bigger concerns that a lot of retailers have is cannibalization. And if you talk to a lot of the retail operators that have launched marketplaces, and there are hundreds of them that have been launched, they say that was a fear going in, but it turned out not to be a real fear. And a lot of times they'll be cautious and only adding on adjacent categories or complementary categories and not in their core categories. But really the secret is to add products in your core categories and not worry about cannibalization. That accelerates the growth, it provides a substitute sell, it improves the customer experience. So many reasons to open up your core categories and not just adjacent categories. But that is a good question. Thank you very much. Well, that wraps up our session for today. Thank you very much for joining us here at NRF 2023.
Thank you.